want to thank everyone for joining us here today for another Teamwrkr workshop. And this time we have Madhurima, who's here to present creating client standards to supercharge our work. I love that word, supercharge. So I'm going to turn it over to Madhurima right away and let her get going with supercharging us. Madhurima, it's all yours.
For sure. Honestly, Phil, supercharge is a word that I've been really hyped up on for some reason. I've been using it literally everywhere. So for a lot of my work nowadays, you will see that word appear. But hello, everyone. Without further ado, let's jump into how we can create client standards to supercharge our work. A little bit about me. I am Madhurima Sappatti. I'm a freedom soul coach and I help multi-passionate, ambitious dreamers basically manage and prevent burnout. So I help them manage their stress, prevent burnout so that they can go out there, work on their dreams, manifest their dreams without their own selves holding them back. I'm also a podcaster, YouTuber, and writer, amongst many, many other things. So basically the multi-passionate, ambitious dreamers, I feel like it all collapses into MAD, which is in my name. So I'm just like, yo, this is holy work. Like, this is the kind of thing I was put on this earth to do. But I'm excited to lead you guys through this, and we will jump right into the presentation. And I wanted to talk about the mindset. Why is this important for you? Why are you here right now? Why did you choose to register for this particular workshop? I would like you to write down in the chats, why is this important for you? Why do you need to supercharge your work? Personally, for me, I got into this solely because when I first started as a freelancer, a lot of people told me, you need to say yes to every client that comes your way, because that will help you get your work done. That will help you become more experienced. That will help you expand your portfolio. There were so many people giving me this advice, and I get where that advice comes from. But personally, for me, I very quickly realized that it was ill-suited advice, at least for me. And here's why. When I said yes to every person who decided to be like, yo, Madhurima, can you help me with writing this blog? Can you help me with writing this amazing article? Can you help me with writing these posts, the caption and all of those amazing copywriting things? I was like, yes, let me do that. And I very quickly realized, hold on a minute, I don't know anything about this topic. I don't know anything about this particular industry. I have no interest in this industry. And so I had to spend probably a couple of hours, if not more, trying to write down a 3-line caption, because I'm someone who's a perfectionist, or was a perfectionist, and I was like, I can't put stuff out there on the internet that isn't true. And so I used to end up spending so much time doing things that I wasn't aligned with, doing things that I didn't resonate with. And eventually there used to be points where I used to end up hitting spots of stress out, where I was hitting spots of burnout, where I was just like feeling extremely overwhelmed with the work that I was doing. And I was like, I love writing, but I don't know why this is not energizing me. Why is this not helping me go all out? What is up with it? And I realized that it was because of this advice to say yes to everyone who comes across. You will have good experiences with clients. You will have bad experiences with clients, especially when you say yes. I want to focus on the bad experiences. We have good experiences by the bucket, but bad experiences equate to the ocean. And sometimes these bad experiences can be enough to push you into the space where you're like, I don't even know if I'm a good enough writer. I don't even know if I'm supposed to be doing the thing that I'm doing. Right? I don't even know what I am working on. Why am I doing this? Why am I spending so much time doing this? I could very easily go to a 9 to 5, be ordered to write some stuff down into Excel sheets and send that across to my boss and be like, yeah, I'm done. Everything's good. Everything's great. No harm in that. If that is something that energizes you, go for it. But if you are a creative freelancer, especially, and you find yourself doing tasks that drain your energy, that make you go like, oh my God, I can't even, this is too much. Very millennial of me. I'm just kidding. If it makes you feel like you are genuinely draining in terms of the work that you're putting out there, in terms of the work that you're spending your time on, then maybe it's time to shift. But I don't want to focus only on the work aspect. Sometimes we have experiences with bad clients as well, where we have clients who have expectations off of us. We don't resonate with that expectations. We are not aligned with those expectations. We are just like, what's happening? Why am I doing this? I don't even like talking to this person. Sitting and talking to this person is like pushing myself into a space where I will be perpetually tortured by this particular person solely because I need money. And so the question becomes, do I actually need money for this? Am I doing myself a service and being in a space where I am being tortured by this person because we don't align, we don't resonate with each other? And so it comes down to understanding how can we set better client standards for the people that we would like to work with. That was my mindset coming into this. I would like to see, I see a few responses in the chats, so I'm gonna read them out. I want to be productive but also balance that supercharge to me. Phil says, Kristen says, it's important for me to discern musts in potential clients. Amazing. Gregory says, I feel like I am at an inflection point in my business where I would at least like to not feel like I'm scraping and clawing for every possible client who has research budget to spend. How do I seek fewer, better clients? We will talk about that, Gregory, towards the end of this wonderful workshop. But thank you so much for asking that. And Kat says, I want to have healthy boundaries with clients without feeling like I'm setting too hard rules. So yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for sharing that, you guys. So let's jump into this. This is going to be the very first thing that I would like to do. And I would invite you guys to do is actually visualize your ideal client. I want you to sit down and actually think about, well, when I see myself working with my ideal client, what do I see? This can be in terms of energetics, like how do I personally feel when I'm working with my ideal client? Who is this ideal client? What does this work look like? What industry is this person working in? Where am I receiving these clients from? Imagine every aspect of your ideal client, because this is going to help you know that this is the person I'm aiming for, right? Amongst a sea of people who are seeking out help, I know that I would like to work with this specific person, right? And this is not necessarily niching down. It's more about understanding what kind of an individual you would like to work with. What are the characteristics of this particular individual? For me, I had to get down to the essence. That's why I say I help multi-passionate, ambitious dreamers, because these are the people that I align with. These are the people that I get excited to work with. These are the people who dream too big and have people telling them that, yo, that's a dream too big. Maybe you need to kind of come down. And I'm like, nah. We're going to push up. We're going to reach that dream. That's the kind of people I like. I like people who are crazy and chaotic and who love to do, extremely passionate about the work that they're doing. That is my version of an ideal client. I know that if I come across someone like this, I am going to jump in and have a discovery session with this person, knowing that there is a really high probability of me working with them, as opposed to me coming across a random person who's like, I need help with stress. I'm like, okay, but I don't feel aligned with you, but I'm still going to do this discovery call. I'm going to spend 40 minutes talking to you and know that you won't be a good fit for me right off the bat. That's trusting intuition and getting into all of those things. But number one, coming back to the main point, is to visualize your ideal client. Who is your ideal client? Who do you feel aligned and attracted to work with? This is where it gets real, right? And something that you can do is genuinely, you can do this right now or you can do this after this session, is close your eyes for a few minutes, take a few deep breaths, and think about what it feels like working with this person. This is a person who is going to motivate you and inspire you to grow, to keep learning more. And you will be excited to learn more because this is something that's exciting, right? If someone asked me to get into the finance world and write something about that, as opposed to someone who asked me to get into the story writing world and write something about that, I would be more intrigued to write about the story writing world. That is a person that I would instantly connect with, as opposed to someone reaching out to me and asking me, hey, Madhurima, can you help me with writing down a caption for this financial company? I'd be like, hold on a minute, I need to learn everything about finance because I don't know anything about it. So get into the basics, get into the very bottom of it all, right? Like, who do I want to work with? Who is this person? Why do I feel aligned with them? Why do I want to work with them? And moving forward, we'll actually talk about how we can actually describe that ideal client. So let's get into that. Define your values. This is important. what are some of your values? What are some of the things that you're like, yo, I love something like this? An example of, or some example for values can be accountability, optimism, authenticity, respect, trust, communication, loyalty. All of these things can be values that you hold to be important, right? Like for me, if I'm working with someone, I should know that they are good communicators. I would like them to be good communicators. I would like them to trust me enough to not babysit me and micromanage every single thing that I'm doing. I would love for them to be authentic in what they are sharing, because if I, as a coach, or even if I, as a creative freelancer, is trying to understand what this person is doing, and they want one thing, but they need something completely different, that's not authentic. That is not aligning. So they will have different expectations off of the work that I'm putting across. I would like them to respect me, because that's important, right? I would like them to be accountable. If they tell me that, hey, I will reach out to you, or if I tell them that, hey, I will send across this project review and I would like you to reach back to me in 24 hours or 48 hours and let me know if you require any changes. And if you don't do that, after 48 hours, I'll assume that you are all right with the thing that I have put across. I will go forward with the next part of the project. And if they come back to me after 5 days and tell me, Madhurima, I did actually like the thing you put across first, and I would like you to change that, that disrupts my entire workflow. You know? So I would like them to be accountable. I would like them to be optimistic about the work that they are trying to do. It doesn't make sense if they're like, I want to do this to change the world, but I don't know if I can actually change the world. I'm just trying my best, but life sucks. I suck. This sucks. That sucks. Like, that is not the energy. Like, you're sucking my energy in that space, right? And this might not be true for everyone. I don't want it to be true for everyone. I'm not asking you to be like, yo, these are the values and the only values that you can have. These are some of the values that I feel aligned with. What you can do is basically go on Google and write down values list, and you have like almost close to 500 values that you can come across on internet, on Pinterest, on Google Images, anywhere you go, right? There are so many values. Look at the values, pick out the ones that you align the most with. You look at a value and you're like, respect, that's important. Write down respect. Trust, that's important. Write down trust. You pick out the values that you align the most with, and then you do this. You categorize them. This is really important. You need to categorize them into non-negotiable values, negotiable values, and not important values. What do I mean by that? For me, respect and trust is non-negotiable. I don't want you to come at me and be like, Madhurima, I don't trust you enough, so I'm going to macromanage you. Madhurima, I don't respect you and your opinion. I don't respect your thoughts. And so that doesn't work with me. That is a non-negotiable value. And that is something that I would like to see in my ideal client. That is something that's important for me. That is a standard that I'm creating, that I need them to be someone who can trust me and who I can trust. I need them to be someone who I can respect and they can respect me back. So that is non-negotiable. Negotiable values can be something like, I don't know, accountability, for example. It might not be something that's really huge for you, right? So it can be something that, hey, I'll give you a time from 2 to 5 days, but if you can't reply back or respond back in those 5 days, I will give you a leeway of 3 to 4 days more, just to be on the safe side of things. That can be something that's negotiable for people. So that is a value that is negotiable. That is a value that even if it happens or doesn't happen, you guys can have a communication around it and see if that is something that you want to come to a midway path about, right? The non-important. And when I say non-important, it is not something that is not important completely. It is something that can be looked over, can be looked at and be like, you know what, it's okay. If this exists or if this doesn't exist, it's not that important in our relationship, in the relationship that we are creating as clients. So it's important to categorize them into non-negotiable. These are some of the biggest things that will help you set your standards. Negotiable is something that you can have a conversation about and change. And not important is something that can exist, but even if it doesn't, it's not that huge. But you'd like it to be present nonetheless in the value list that you have created, right? The next thing. So once again, I think we have a chat. Does being organized count as a value? For sure. Yeah. I mean, it is something that you might find valuable, right? For example, if you have a client who has all the things dumped in front of you and you can't make heads or tails out of it, and you are supposed to create content out of it. You're like, but what am I supposed to create content out of? There are so many things present here. How do I know what is important? How do I know what is something that needs to be done ASAP? Right? I need you to be organized so that I can create whatever I'm creating for you, whatever service I'm providing for you, to be present in a much more easier way for both of us, right? It needs to be a two-way street. It can't just be that, yo, I'm paying you money, get the job done. I don't care how you do it. We are not in a space of gangsters and mafias where people are like, I want you to get rid of this person. I don't know how you do it, but get it done. That's not the case. You have to make a plan because you're both working towards a particular goal. You're both trying to reach a particular goal, and it doesn't make sense if you're just showing up for the sake of showing up, if you're just doing the work for the sake of doing it. Because then what happens is their expectations are not reached. You don't know what their expectations are in the first place. And so there's a lot of back and forth happening in that space, and no one is happy at the end of it all. So it's kind of like you're reaching the midway path and you're like, well, at least I delivered. And they're like, well, at least we got something, right? It might not be the best thing, but at least we got something. And at the end of the day, when someone reaches out to them, asking them if they know someone who provides a service that is similar to yours, they might not be as excited to recommend you or refer you because you just got a okay service, or you just gave them an okay service and they just got an okay service. And you're just like, oh, well, there we go. It's kind of chaotic, all over the place kind of a thing. So understanding what your values are, understanding what you're looking for is really important. The next thing that we will get into is creating the red flags and the green flags list for your clients. What this basically means is you look at who your ideal client is and who your ideal client is not, based on the values that you have seen, you have created as negotiable, non-negotiable, and something that is not important. Now, your ideal client or who fits into the green flags list has some of the things that makes you want to work with them, that attracts you. This can be characteristics, this can be values, this can be behavior patterns, this can be characteristic traits. I said characteristics twice, so maybe someone who doesn't repeat everything that they say. I'm kidding. But basically you have these kinds of people. When you look at them, you're like, I want to work with you. I don't even know what you're working on, but I want to learn more about you. I want to learn more about the work that you're doing, and I want to know how I can support you the best. These are some of the green flags that you will look for when you're trying to work with your client. These are things that just looking at them, looking at this individual, you're like, I want to know more. I want to work with you more, right? And then the red flags are things that you don't necessarily agree with. These are things that is late communication, not showing up, maybe not doing the work that you ask them to do, not meeting you halfway. There can be many things that can be red flags for you, things that drain your energy, right? Not coming to a proper understanding of what you want to give or what they want to receive, not coming to a proper understanding of the work that you want to do together. There is a lot of things that can act as red flags. And to be extremely honest, the green flags list and the red flags list is something that is very unique to you as an individual. There can be things that overlap for people across the world, but at the end of the day, it's very unique to you. If you are someone who doesn't like late payments and you constantly see someone providing you with late payments, then it's like, oh, that's a red flag for me. I don't want to chase after this client just so that they can give me the money for something that I've already done, right? That is not the energy that we want to come in with. Or it can be, for example, you ask them to provide you with resources, they don't provide you with those resources, and then you're stuck like, I don't even know what I can do because I can't do the next thing without the resources. And then they come out and they give you a call and they're like, hey, I haven't received the thing that you asked, that you said that you would deliver by this particular point of time. Like, how am I supposed to deliver if you don't give me the resources? So that kind of misalignment, miscommunication is something that can be a red flag for you. Understand and get really realistic about what are the things that attract you about a particular individual that you would like to potentially work with, and what are the things that you don't like in a particular individual that would genuinely repel you, right? These are the things that would either add to your energy or drain your energy. when you are working with someone who ticks off all the boxes, if not most of the boxes in your green flags list, you know that the moment you start working together, it will be a collaboration that will help you reach a particular goal, and both of your energies will increase while you're working together. Your knowledge will increase, your understanding of each other and their client and their work will increase. If you're working with someone from the red flag zone, where someone hits all the red flags that you have, or most of the red flags that you have, then you know that either they will end up draining your energy or you will end up draining their energy. And that's not the energy that we want to get in with. So create the red flags and the green flags list for your clients. Hot tip once again, what are the things that you're attracted and what are the things that you're repelled by? Think values, characteristics, traits, behaviors, energies, etc. If you find someone who is very low energy, so for example, I would like to share this. I was recently reached out to by someone who is in the coaching industry, and they were like, I love the work that you're doing. I help people manage, like do sales better, and they're introverts. And I was like, all right, let's collaborate. But then as we were collaborating, we realized that there was a lot of back and forth. They were very low energy, I was very high energy, and eventually I couldn't do it anymore. Like we had 4 to 5 2-hour sessions just to talk about the collaboration, just to talk about the workshop. And then eventually I was like, I can't do this anymore, man. I mean, it's not sitting right with me. I've spent so much energy. I might as well have gone out there and done the workshop by the time that we have spent having a conversation about it. So that is a red flag for me. For me, it is important that our energies match, or it's just a tad bit higher, right? If someone who is very high energy, I will constantly be striving to reach their energy levels. If someone is very low energy, I'll constantly be trying to get myself down into that space just so that we could align and have a communication from an equal standpoint, right? So that is something that's really important for me, and that could be a red flag, right? But once again, it's not a harmful red flag. Someone else might align with their low energy because for them that is high energy, or for them that energy matches their understanding and the kind of work that they're trying to do. For me, it is a no-go. So it's completely all right. Like, not all red flags are red flags per se, right? It's not something that is make or break. It can be for every individual, but not for everyone on the planet. So it's important to think about this from your perspective only, not from the perspective of the world, right? If someone says, yo, I like to work with high energy people, and you don't vibe with that, you're like, I can't work with high energy people, man. Like, they're too chaotic. I need someone who's much more calmer, on the calmer end of the spectrum. But people are telling you that we love high energy people, so you should work with high energy people as well. You end up doing that. All you'll do is you'll end up feeling drained out. The other person will end up feeling drained out. You'll just be in a space where you're just moving things along just for the sake of it, just for the commitment aspect of it. So everyone has different red flags, everyone has different green flags, and the only person who can understand and assign those red flags and green flags is you as an individual. Before we move into this particular point, does anyone has any questions for me? Leave them in the comments, or you can raise your hand. I am down to have a conversation. If not, we'll move across. Go, Kristen.
Oh, yeah. Madhurima, I was wondering, how do you, I would see you as quite high energy. How do you place yourself on this like energy spectrum? And if you are meeting people who are even higher energy than you are, how does that, like, how did you meet them? How does that play out for you particularly?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Yeah, I am definitely on the high energy spectrum, and I have met a lot of people who are even higher energy than me. And sometimes, if not all, I align with them. I get attracted to those high energies because for me, that is, oh, that's where I want to reach. That's the kind of energy level that I want to reach. So for me, that is important. And so I would love to work with people who are high energy or higher energy, right? But I don't work well with people who are low energy. I have tried it a lot of times. It just doesn't work. And I just feel extremely drained out. So wait, that was your question, right? If it wasn't, please go ahead and
Yeah, I was
rephrase
curious
that.
about how you defined yourself.
So yeah, I definitely fall on the high energy side. For me, I have moved through the phases of energy, right? I was the quiet kid in the classroom. I never spoke up. And then there was that phase where I was starting to break out of my shell, and I was like, maybe I can say a few things. Maybe that won't be something that's harmful. Maybe I can speak up. And then when I got into the coaching industry, slowly I realized that this is the energy level. Like I can be myself, and myself was high energy. So for me, it was about breaking out from that shell. And if back then I had met someone who was high energy, I would have definitely grown up really faster than the trajectory that I was on, right? Like it was a very slow pace for me to get into a space where I'm comfortable enough with the energy levels that I am at, right? Back then, all I met were people who were lower energy than me or equal energy as me. And so I never knew that there could be people who would be chaotic, who could be chaotic, and people wouldn't judge them for it. So for me, it was all about that. But yeah,
Thank you.
hope that answered your question. Awesome. So let's get into this, which is share your green flags with the world to attract the people that you wish to work with. This is super important. A lot of times people create the green flags list, the red flags list, and then they leave it at that. It becomes a subconscious thing that they look at when they want to reach out to clients, and it can be good. But a better thing that you can do is share your green flags list with the world and share your red flags list with the world as well. Like, hey, these are the people that I love to work with. These are the people that I don't love to work with. But if you are someone who is requiring help and who falls in the red flags list, let me know and I can refer you to someone else, which is something that's powerful. You might not align with me, and I'm glad that I can share this with you right off the bat that we might not work well together, but I know that someone else will. It's like dating. Honestly, it is like dating. It's like if you look at a person who is extremely high energy, who likes to go out, party all the time, you're someone who loves to sit in your room and read books and would prefer a book date as opposed to a concert date. You look at this person and you're like, this person is a concert person, and they reached out to me and they want to date me, but I know that they won't align with me, but I know someone else who will. And so maybe I can introduce them, and they would be a much better couple than we would be, because we'd be constantly fighting to reach a middle ground. So it's always important to share your green flags with the world. People who look at those flags and they're like, hold on, I fall into all of these things and I need support with the work that they are providing. Maybe it's time that I reach out to them. Maybe this is the person that I was looking for, right? Something that happens when you post your green flags is people look at you and know that you're authentic, which is huge. People know that, this person is letting us know these are the green flags, these are the red flags. They are letting us know who they want to work with and who they don't want to work with. And so maybe we can trust them enough to be authentic in front of them as well. Maybe we can trust them enough to share our problems with them, to share the work that we want to do and not be judged for it, not be looked at from a disrespectful perspective, not be looked at from a perspective that, this needs to be fixed, but more along the lines of how can we work on this goal together. So it's really important that you share your green flags and your red flags with the world and let them know that, this is who I am. This is who I like to work with. Something that I'm honestly doing is I'm currently building out my website with Archive. And we have this section right underneath my mission statement where it's all about who Madhurima is as an individual. And it's not even about my bio. Like there is a section right underneath that's all about my bio. But above that, there is the space where I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm someone who loves playing with fire, because a lot of my work involves letting go and releasing the emotions, releasing the stress, releasing all of these things with the help of fire. So that is something that's loves to play with fire a bit too much. Right. And then there is the photo of, I don't know if you guys have seen Legends of Tomorrow, but there's this dude who loves to play with fire. I'm like, she is someone like that, right? And she's chaotic, but she's also calm. She loves to read books. She loves her personal time, but she's also someone who will reach out to you and annoy the hell out of you just because she wants to. So when I share stuff like this, people who want to resonate with me will resonate with me, right? I won't be forcing them. I won't be pressurizing them into resonating with me. They know right off the bat what kind of a person I am and if they want to work with me. Right? If someone looks at the website and goes, she is too much, I don't think I can work with her. No problem. There are so many other people who are helping people work with the stress, manage the stress, prevent burnout, and do all of the good stuff that I'm currently doing. I'm not the only person. There are so many other people who are out there who could be much calmer, much low energy, and that's fine. For me, I'm a high energy person, and if someone looks at that and goes, she's too much and I love it, like she is too weird and I love it, I need to get to work with her, we have already crossed the first step of making sure that we are someone that align. Because if someone reaches out to me after looking at my website, I know that there are people who have seen that list of who I am as an individual and would love to work with me. They know that they already know that I'm crazy and they still want to work with me. Amazing. Right? So when you put your green flags and your red flags out there, you create that space for people to resonate with you, or for people to reach out to you and tell you, yo, I love the work that you're doing, but you're not the right person for me. Do you know anyone else? If you do, refer them. So yeah, we want that I love you reaction, basically. Every time they look at us, we want that I love you reaction. I'm kidding. If they want to do that, I'm fine with it. Like, send me roses, you guys. Kidding. But yeah, basically that's the energy that we want to get into, that people who want to work with us are people who align with us, who find a lot of joy working with us. A few extra tips that I would like to share with you is, once you have created your green flags and red flags list, once you have posted it out there, don't judge, quote unquote, don't judge every client that comes across your pathway and try to categorize them right off the bat. Try to understand them as an individual, right? If you know that this person, if you have had conversations with them before and they are reaching out to you, and then because you have had conversations with them, you already know the kind of individual they are, and you know whether they would fit into your red flag and green flag list, that is a completely different story. But if these are strangers who are reaching out to you and you don't know much about them, you're just looking at the person and you're like, I don't think I would like to work with this person, without knowing much about them, you're already categorizing them and judging them before even having a conversation with them. So it's important that when you are connecting with strangers who could be potential clients, understand them, have a conversation about who they are as an individual. And after that conversation, you can categorize them and be like, yo, I vibe with you, I want to work with you. Or I don't vibe with you, but there are people who would probably vibe with you. So here are the referral points that you could, or here are the people that you could reach out to and work with. But yeah, so understand your clients before you categorize them, a huge step. The next step that I have for you is invite friends to share their red flags and green flags better, right? It's not just about who you are as an individual. I often say, before you do all of this work, figure out who you are as an individual. Why should people want to work with you? What are your red flags and green flags? Not for your clients, but for yourself. What are your red flags? What are your green flags? And I know it can be a bit difficult to categorize yourself and look at yourself from the positive or negative lens, but it's important to do that. Because if someone comes up to you and they're like, yo, I want you to reach out to me every single day of the week, and you know that you are someone who doesn't like to constantly be on calls, someone who doesn't like to be texting on weekends, you can just be like, I'm sorry, I'm not the right person for you, right? Understand who you are as an individual, understand what your individualistic red flags and green flags are before you create red flags and green flags for your client, and then invite your friends to share their red flags and green flags, so that just so you know, if someone doesn't align with you but they could potentially align with someone else who has their green flags as what your red flags are, right? That's confusing. Let me get it back. Right. If what your red flags are their green flags, and you know that this person that you are having a conversation with falls in your red flags, but their green flags, your friend's green flags, you can pass them along. It's important to have that conversation and know who people are. For example, if let's say Kristen and Kat are present and I'm like, yo, I have a client who wants to work with you, and I randomly, without even having a conversation with them beforehand, I'm like, maybe you should reach out to Kristen without knowing what her red flags are and her green flags are. And the person who reaches out to Kristen recognizes, and Kristen is like, yo, that's my green red flag. I can't work with this individual. There's a damaged communication. There's a damaged space where the client who potentially reached out to me is like, not only does this person want to work with me, the person that she referred me to also doesn't want to work with me. So there must be a fault with me, or this person sucks. And I would never refer them to anyone else. It's important, especially in your networking group, in your referral group, to have that space where you understand what are someone's green flags and red flags, so that when you do refer a potential client to them, there is a huge potential or probability for them to work with the person you referred them to. I hope that made sense. I am genuinely working through a sore throat and a foggy brain right now. But if it doesn't make sense, let me know in the chat. I will literally break it down further in a way that makes more sense than it does in my head right now. But yeah, thank you, Kristen. But yeah, that's about it. Before we jump into the next slide, I want to know if anyone has any questions for me. I invite them to raise their hand and go for it. I'm just reading the chat that Kristen sent. Red flag, we don't have a budget. So important. Green flag has, knows, and shares their budget. I love that. Such a huge thing. But yeah, Kat, yes.
So when it comes to red flags, I feel like a lot of red flags with clients, maybe you don't see initially. Like maybe you have a really good connection with them and everything, but then, I don't know, down, 1 month, 2 months into the project, something goes wrong, and then like they flip out, for example, and you don't know of that red flag until you get to that point. I don't know what my question is, but what advice maybe do you have for that?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question, and that did make sense. Probably because I'm working through a foggy brain, but that did make sense. So here's the thing. You do know what your red flags are. So what you can do is you can vet your client well before the project starts to kind of figure out if they fall into any of the red flags that you have, right? And especially the non-negotiable red flags. The negotiable red flags, maybe you can have a conversation and shift that into a potential green flag, but a non-negotiable red flag, you can have a conversation with your client and you can be like, hey, for example, budget, which is something that Kristen shared. For you, budget is not having enough budget is something that can be a red flag. You can reach out to them and be like, before we even have a conversation about the project and about the work that we want to do, I want to know if you have the budget for it. This is the cost of investment for the work that I am doing. You can obviously word that better, but this is the cost of investment for having a collaboration with me, for having a partnership with me. I want to know before we dive deeper into the details, if this is something that we can reach an understanding to. If there is a space, if you want to negotiate or not negotiate, let us understand what your budget looks like before we even dive deeper into the details of the project, right? So you are already creating a space where you're vetting your client for all your personal red flags that are non-negotiable, right? So even down the line, if they go into a space where they are like, wait, we don't actually have enough budget, you can break off the contract immediately, right? Or maybe you can have a couple of conversations, but you already know that this is a person that you don't align with. So my suggestion would be to actually vet your clients ahead of time to see if they fit into that red flag zone. If they have any of the red flags, especially the non-negotiable red flags, if they do, then maybe you can share that to someone else. Maybe you can refer them to a friend who has a lower budget, who's ready to work for a lower budget, because that is their budget space right now, right? Maybe you are a premium person. Maybe that person has a lower ticket offer, and maybe they can work with this person much better. So it's always good to kind of vet them ahead of time about especially your non-negotiable red flags. I hope that made sense and answered your question.
I think
No, yeah, it makes sense. Thank you.
If I can jump in, Kat, I've been in similar situations, and I agree where you have a first conversation and you're like, oh, it sounds like everything's going swimmingly. It sounds like I'll fold into the project really nicely and everything will go well. And then you get excited. And then, it's not a week or even 2 weeks down the line when you're like, oh, how you presented in that first meeting is different than how you actually run your business, right? And I think one of the things that I exercised was when I would read through my contract really carefully, right? And especially under the ways that where like termination ends and how communication works and things like that, their expectations of you, I would then essentially I would counter that and say, hey, like I noticed that it says, you know, I'll be on call, like to answer texts and phone calls during the working day. That's not going to happen, right? Because I was like, I prefer to communicate over Slack, prefer to set a time ahead to talk, prefer all of these things, because especially if you're when you're a freelancer, when you're on a contract basis, you may not be available at all times to answer those calls, right? Or it could be 10 p.m. for you. And that not work for your schedule. And being vigilant about, I would like to make these changes, right? And then it sets a precedent. You can't always control other people, but you can control yourself. And it's like, hey, you know ahead of time, these are my boundaries. You get a sense of like the kind of person I am. And the kind of person I am like is somebody who loves Slack, right? Loves communicating over Slack and email and things like that. And because people will have all different types of their own boundaries and what they're comfortable with. And especially if you're working with somebody who's running their own business, it's extra pressure because they may be willing to work until, you know, from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m., right? For themselves. And they're used to other members of their team doing that. But if that's something that you're like, not for this project, I don't think I can make that work, then being communicative about, I have a precedent with my clients. I only work until 1 a.m., you know, or whatever it is that you're comfortable with.
My work hours are now 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
For you.
That's what I'm around.
For you.
Thank you very much.
Especially for you, Mr. Customer, who drives me.
Yeah.
Yeah. 9 to 9:30 a.m. are my new work hours. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. It's funny you bring that up, Chris, and you talk about that sense of contracts and Madhurima. Maybe this goes with what you were saying too. You know, one of the things that I've learned over time is there's the contract, and that is sort of your fundamental document with people, but there also might be sort of operational understanding, you know, and that's something you can always type up, you know, off to the side, and it doesn't need to be a formal part of the contract necessarily. But it kind of goes with what you were saying earlier, Madhurima. Is make a list of what your red lights and green lights are. Then you can turn that into a memo, you know, I would call it, you know, just like it's something you can share with your client or your prospective client, even, you know, before signing your contract, and just say, you know, it might not be formal part of the contract, but this is how I'm going to behave, you know, and, you know, maybe their expectations as well around that. We used to do that when we had like little, you know, you have a sports team or something that people are on. Well, being on time is important for practice. So you should understand that we're going to start practice whether you're here or not, right? I mean, whether sports team, band practice, play, rehearsal, whatever it is, we have other people here. So that's just an example of something where, you know, my work hours are these, or whatever it may be, or you're contracting me for 20 hours a week and here's how I'm going to break it up, or whatever it may be. So I just think it's interesting that it doesn't always have to be in the contract, because that feels really formal and boxed in. And then frankly, you're locked into it as well, versus if you have sort of, this is how I'm behaving memo over here, that can be changed and adjusted over time as well. So it's just something to think about, I guess. Helps you to think through it too.
I genuinely love all the wonderful answers that were given here. Yeah, I definitely think, you know, you can share this, you can have a legal thing, and you can have something that you can send way before you sign the contract, that this is how I work. This is our thing. These are things that are big no-no, and these are the things that are big yes. So this is how we'll work. If you're comfortable with only then, maybe we can get into the contract part of it. If you're not comfortable with this, if you feel that you won't stick on with the no's, the big no-nos, you will come across, you will do all the things that are mentioned in the red flags, then we will break that contract. We will get out of that relationship. There will be a disconnect. We won't be able to work further. Something that I also I lost my train of thought for a second. Hold on. It was really important. Right. Something that you can also do is you can ask your client before you sign the contract what their green flags and red flags are. Right. When you do that, you know what your client expects of you, and they know what you expect of them. So there is once again a mutual understanding as to how you want to work together. It's not something that you can only ask your friends to share. It can be something that you can invite the clients to share as well, so that you have a mutual understanding of what are some things that you can't cross, what are some of the boundaries that you can't cross, and what are some of the things that helps the other person connect with you better, which is something that's really important. I just went back to Gregory's question that he asked, how can I work with fewer better clients? Something that I would invite you to do is, right now, literally everyone out there has a LinkedIn profile, has some form of social media, has a website or something along those lines. And I invite you to think about who are your ideal clients, what are their green flags, what are their red flags, and see and look at people who fall or have, at least from the outside perspective, who fall into the red flags that, or who fall into the green flags that you mentioned earlier on in your list. And when you do, you know that you can have a conversation with them further, and there is a higher probability of you guys working together, right? So I feel like that can be something that you can definitely try out. It's not necessarily niching, it's the behavioral aspects, it's the emotional aspects, it's the energetic aspects of this particular individual. And if you can resonate with it, if you feel like you resonate with it, you can move it further along, and there will be a higher probability of you working together. I hope that answered your question, Gregory.
Yeah, thank you for that attention. I appreciate it. I have kind of a question for the group. I don't know how much it fully applies here, but I'm wondering, do any of you obtain business through any sort of kind of freelancer clearinghouses like Upwork or Freelancer or Fiverr? Or am I the only one who occasionally resorts to that? Okay, I guess I'm alone on that.
Resorts to that. I like how you put that.
Well, it is. I mean, I hope to have, my main consistent clients, but if they're only keeping me busy for 20 hours a week, I've got to find some other stuff. And so that's usually where I turn. And just there, the red flags stand out very quickly, when somebody says, I'd like to survey, 1,000 respondents and have a 20-page report to support my business plan, and my budget is $250. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, next one, thumbs down, and report to Upwork as non-feasible.
Yeah.
Or unrealistic expectations, I think, is the checkbox you can check. But
Okay, my quick question is, within the 20 hours, is there anywhere that you can either increase your rate that is proportionate to something extra that you can offer the existing clients?
I think I have maybe one or two of my clients where there would be potential for that. But I mean, to be frank, most of my clients already come to me with some sort of budget that they're scraping together because they already deliberately rejected proposals from Kantar or GFK or some big research organization, and they say, well, look, we've got $8,000 to spend this year, so Greg, can you help us? So I don't know, I just would feel a little bit uncomfortable going back to those clients to say, hey, we could, instead of just these quarterly reports, standing alone, we could create a digital dashboard so that your salespeople could sign in and see how they're doing on a rolling basis, but if I were to do that, I'd say, well, that's going to be another $12,000. And I know,
I mean,
they already spent the $8,000. So
I think like something that I talked to my father about this, because he has his own, he's a lawyer, he has his own law firm. And it's fascinating to hear him operate his business, because me also as a solopreneur in a totally different realm and a totally different generation, I hear him also say things about that. He goes, oh, well, my client, she's in her, late 20s, about your age, she doesn't have much money. So he gives her like a steep discount, right? And my thinking is, Dad, somebody's always got the money. The money's often there. It's just a matter of whether or not it's being allocated to you.
yeah.
And if you can bring the value that you deserve, the value that you have, and you respect your rate, then like she'll come up with something. He was dealing in real estate. This woman just bought an apartment. You telling me she can't muster an extra $500, right? Like that's the money. Somebody's got the money. It's just a matter of where they've placed the importance of allocating that money, right? And I think there's nothing wrong with you offering that to your existing clients, because the truth is you don't know their full budget, right? You don't know where they could be putting that money. They could be like, we've got 8,000, to start you off, and we'll see how it goes. But especially if they're consistently happy with your work, right? And maybe they're in a position where they're like, it would be really useful and profitable for us to know the insights of, like, for our salespeople, then there are ways that you can integrate that in and say, hey, I want to put this on the table if it's something you will look at down the line, just so you know that I offer this service. Because then they may not know that either they know, but they're not aware of its significance, or they don't know that you offer like a digital dashboard, and they're like, oh my God, that would make things so much easier. That would tell us we don't have to, then we don't have to go X, Y, and Z. And if you're comfortable offering something that is bespoke to them, that maybe you feel is more aligned with their budget, then that's also an opportunity. That's also an opportunity, because I see you in the Slack. You've got so many insights. You're clearly incredible at your job, right? Clearly, you're always looking at different ways to see the world, see data, be able to conjure it up into something that is palatable and consumable almost, right? So I think that people who already see the value, the inherent value in your work, will continue to see more. Right? I know you've got the tools. I know you've got the knowledge. I know apparently you've got a digital dashboard that you can create, right? And I think
actually, I would panic a little bit if they really asked for that.
You're like, don't say yes, though. Don't say yes.
Panic is what do they say, that like I forget, necessity is the mother of invention or something like that.
Right.
Little panic's not always bad, Yeah.
It's true. If they've never seen it, but if you've hardly ever seen it, they guarantee these clients have never seen it. So the best you can do, and it is functioning, they may very well be very happy with it.
Yeah.
Greg, one thing that comes to mind for you as well is, what's valuable is often, if you can raise your rate, or as Chris is saying, is there's ways to get more out of an existing account, right? You can raise your rate for the same service. You can offer a new service, but one of the lost sort of benefits of an existing account is the referral from the account. And I find that most people don't explicitly ask for it. So it would be more powerful in some ways. This is just, I'm going to date myself. So a lot of things we've talked about today, Madhurima does a great job of connecting red flags to a lot of the emotional side of things. But there's a tremendous book out there. It's probably 30 years old or more now. And it is by Miller Hyman, and they have a whole sales technique. And they actually talk about red flags. And they say, as a salesperson, and we're all somewhat in sales as freelancers, at some point you have to ask someone to sign a contract. That means you're in sales, right? That's what you do. And so, one of the things they say is uncover all the red flags that might exist on this deal and slowly and methodically take them down with the customer, right? So there's you're high energy, I'm low energy. How are we going to deal with that red flag? Or you only have $8,000 right now. My services are $10,000. How are we going to take down that red flag together? And once you begin to collaborate and take the flags down together, now you're a partner with your customer. Now you're partnering together. And that's sort of the red flag, green flag concept. As you go forward, then the value of your customer is not only in, of course, you're giving $8,000 a month, maybe they'll go to $10,000. That would be wonderful. But in addition to that, they know another customer that would give you $8,000, right? Because now I've changed, right? And so, one of the things a lot of people don't do is explicitly ask for the referral. And it takes practice. And one of the things that I would say about that is, when I use the word explicit, not just, do you know someone else could use my services? But do you know another firm of 55 people in size like you guys that work in the blank industry that have about $8,000 to $10,000 to spend per project that could use my services? Now you've got the person going, oh, wait a minute, I was just in a networking group with my peers and they all could use this type of service, right? So that's often delivered very well in an email, because you can write it down, like, oh yeah, great. So in wrapping up and thanking for the project or wrapping up that month, you can squeeze that in. So ways to get more out, of existing accounts. There's lots of, ways to sort of squeeze it,
that's great advice, Phil. And I think that's probably something I've been a little bit remiss on. I mean, I've done it occasionally with one or two clients, but I think I'm leaning way too much on just assuming that they'll keep me in mind for other opportunities that are adjacent to their organization. And it is more effective to proactively seek that.
It's a good method to just have every time that someone, I would, in my old business, we would literally put it on our invoices. You get a paper invoice and an electronic one still there. Do you know anyone else you can use our services? Would be right there. Our best source of customers is our current customer base, things like that. Yeah. And that sort of promotes people, because then you have your best customers. And again, that book is tremendous. Miller Hyman, I recommend it. They break them out and they talk about influencers and all this stuff, but you'll find that there are people in your accounts who will start to give you referrals all the time. It's incredible if you just do it. You probably have to do it for 3 to 6 months is what I would say, consistently. So anyway, I'll be conscious of everyone's time here. We're running up against the deadline. I want to give other people a chance to talk. Madhurima's gone not only on mute, but off camera. I'm afraid she's
Let us take a break. She's been presenting.
She can't take it anymore. Her energy level is.
Yeah, I know. She's gonna come back
awesome.
More revived.
That's awesome.
But Phil, I think you made a really good point about essentially automating that ask, right? And then it's not something you have to think about, whether that's, in your invoices, you just add like a little star underneath, because you're going to send the invoice anyway. You're going to send the invoice anyway, which is really valuable because it makes you think about, because I think a lot of people, I myself included, it's quite nerve-wracking to be like, and also I would like to do more, And then this spares that email where you have to think about how to type it out or write it out. Then it's just something that comes with the territory, right? Or, oh wait, this is funny, but I've just read this article about how fake assistants are everywhere. Invisible assistants, made up assistants are everywhere. And it was a TikTok tip that was essentially how my fake personal assistant has made my life easier, right? And it's like all the things to silly things, like they help me get reservations at very exclusive restaurants because I pretend like I've got my own assistant, to the fact that she goes, this assistant of mine has advocated for higher rates for me and won them, right, at 3 times the initial proposed rate, right? And it's a creative, it's a creative idea that I've just been thinking about as of last night, where it's like, when it looks like you've got more advocates in your corner, or when it's easier for you to advocate for yourself, what does that look and feel like? What are the results from that, right? And this is all to say, Greg, that if you want me to be your invisible personal assistant, you can write it down. I will be CC'd. You could write all the emails.
Yeah, that's a
and I will just approve.
I like that.
Yeah, Kristen, what you hit on there is another technique. Just real quick, if you ever go to buy a car, what always happens is the salesperson says, I have to check with my manager, right? Because there's all this haggling and nonsense. Also, and a lot of great companies have come out to eliminate that, but it still goes on every day. And so the salesperson says, let me go talk to my manager. Do you really think they're going in the back and talking to their manager? They're not. They're not doing that at all. I'll guarantee you they're not doing that. So what they're doing is saying there's someone else that you don't see that is making a decision, right? And so the thing I usually say is, well, why don't you bring your manager out here?
Yeah.
Right? Bring the manager out here. I'll talk to her. That's great. I didn't know that you weren't the person I should talk to, right? Like, why am I, right? Are you not the salesperson? So that's sort of a technique that people will use. The virtual assistant thing, or the invisible assistant thing, is actually a really interesting technique, because you mentioned getting at a restaurant. Hi, I'm calling on behalf of, right? Makes it sound like, I'm calling on behalf of Kat Irwin, right? Ms. Irwin would like to get in next week. How about Tuesday at 7? Well, we're really busy. Well, Ms. Irwin was really hoping that I could you help me make this happen for her? You see what I'm doing there. So now the one thing I use there all the time is help. So this is one of the things I think that what I would bring to this conversation sometimes is ask for help all the time. I'm going to do it with you guys in 1 second. Okay. And you'll see the technique. But if I say, can you help me to get new accounts? People will do it. Why? Because if Greg goes to his existing accounts that love him and he says, can you help me? Because if not, I'm not going to be in business tomorrow. Right? And that's the implicate, right? I won't be doing this for you anymore because I'm going to go take another job or do something else, right? Go fishing, go my boat, right? Think I'm out of here, right? It's not worth it. They go, wait a minute, he needs help. I need to help because I'm helping me then too, right? So that's the one thing that I would say And Madhurima's doing a great job identifying the red flags, the green flags, and all these things. And that's how, when you get down to the red flag, you can say, can you help me to resolve this? Can you help me to do this? And people want to help you. If they don't show that they want to help you, biggest red flag of all, right? They don't want to help me. Well, how fast are they going to pay my bill? Right? Like, that's crazy, right? This is crazy. So anyway, I want to, again, Madhurima, I want to turn it back to you for a minute and have any wrap up that you might have for your workshop here.
Yeah, for sure.
Welcome
Thank
back.
you so
Yeah,
much.
we're going.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my camera died and I was like, "Ah, wait, I have an extra battery." But that was like, for me, the biggest red flag was like my camera dying and people thinking that I am not someone who is reliable. And then I was like, I can create systems to ensure that that doesn't happen. So yeah, but basically, I feel like we spoke a lot about the negotiable and the non-negotiable red flags on this journey. That, you know, the non-negotiable red flag is if someone's not willing to help you, maybe you need to take a step back and look at things and see if you actually want to work with someone. And one amazing tip that came up to me while we were having this wonderful conversation was the fact that you can actually go on Upwork, Fiverr, and all of these sites and look at the job descriptions and figure out if something that a potential client is writing in the job description aligns with you or not. If that can be a red flag for you or not. If you don't have a lot of ideas, go on there and see what people are writing. What are they looking for? And if it works for you or if it doesn't work for you. With that idea in mind, you know who to look for. So yeah, I hope that this particular workshop helped you. I need your help, you guys, because I am currently creating this wonderful community called the Stress Busters community. It's all about making stress management fun, which I am a mission on, which is to have fun while we manage our stress. A lot of people think that stress management is something that can be really draining. It is something that takes up a lot of our life, when in reality, you can genuinely spend 5 minutes doing something that you absolutely love, that you would have done anyways, but with the intention behind it, with doing it in a way that allows you to relieve your stress, can have a much higher effect, right? Maybe you love playing with your pets, but you realize that, oh, you know what? I am having a stress response right now. I can feel myself shivering. I can see that I am in a space where I'm about to fight someone, beat someone up, run away from this entire scenario, or simply freeze. I know that, oh, you know what? I know playing with my pets always helps me. Let me go play with my pets. Let me go ask them for cuddles and kisses and, you know, take them on a walk or something like that. When you get intentional about understanding what your stress response is, having an awareness around, oh, this is my stress response, I always do this when I'm stressed out, and you know what you can do to have fun around it, things get a lot easier. Stress management gets a lot easier. So I have a wonderful community, it's free to join, called the Stress Busters community, and I would love to see you there. I am just going to push this down. If you scan this QR code right here, you get entry into it, and I would love to see you there. Something that I do for a lot of people is when they join the community, I just now crossed 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. And as a way to give thanks and to give gratitude, everyone who joins the community gets a free 40 to 45 minutes coaching call from me. So if you're currently stressed out and are in need of support, let's get together. Let's get this party going. I'm super excited. I hope you had fun. I hope this helped. Thank you so much for being here. Now go out there and start working with the clients that you love. Let's go.
Awesome. Thank you, Madhurima. Appreciate it.
Thank
And,
you so much.